Greetings, dear, precious, magnificent, beautiful, smart, genius that you are, spirit soul. Hi. Take a nice deep breath. Breathe into your heart. Okay, and be right there. My topic. How dissatisfaction generates worry and stress. All right. There's a phrase I've used before, kind of like divine dissatisfaction. That's in a sense knowing that you're not applying what you really know. Because most of us, what we do is we know more about what we really need to be doing than we are. We just tend to do that. And yet, the key with knowledge is spiritual knowledge of who you are, is you got to apply it. And one of the states of mind that people have is dissatisfaction. They don't have satisfaction or fulfillment. They're not happy where they are. Now, that does not mean when you're happy where you are that everything is going to stay the same all the time, because it doesn't work that way. You're the same, and yet we have fractured ourselves in many different ways to so-called meet the situation or be what other people want. But the dissatisfaction keeps us in a state of not good enough. We're not happy there. We're easily irritated, blaming other people, being crabby and cranky. And see, the fear of being satisfied is that you won't do anything else. Well, that's not true. That's the mind. When you watch your mind, it's really clever. It will come up with all these excuses, all these reasons, all these justifications to argue for your limitations. And people will argue for those and try and prove that their limitations are absolute truth and real, and that's the way it is. But that's to their own disadvantage. Because, knowing who you are is something that you have to do through your own research. And that's what I do. I'm a constant researcher and meditator and applier of what I'm learning and realizing, because that's the way it works. And as I do that, I offer that to you. That's my work. So when we're constantly dissatisfied with where we are, it's because you're in the mind. And then it's also the programming that goes on, that you've got to make something of yourself, that you've got to be more than you are, that you aren't good enough, that other people are better than you are, and that the competitor is going to make more. So there's a worm of anxiety that's continually grinding away and eating away in the stomach because of always the fear that you're not going to make it. And this duality reality operates on fear and guilt to keep you as a, what would you call it, like a cell tower, you might say a homing device, where you are a sender and a receiver of information, words, sounds, emotions, and all that comes from that. Fear always begins with a word, and so does guilt. Discomfort dissatisfaction, it begins with a word that someone has spoken, or something that you've learned, or your previous experiences. And then what happens is we're giving words the power to control us, when actually words are just sounds. You're not a sound. generate sound, but you're not sound. The key then to realize is when you're satisfied exactly with yourself and where you are, you're happy. And when you're happy, you're not tortured by, you better focus on what you're going to do in the next moment, because you got to get there, because if you don't, somebody else is going to get it and they're going to take it and you won't have it and you're going to lose it, and you got to just keep it going. So you got to keep on that edge all the time. And that's the mind. And that's sucking your life force out. And you want to keep your power. It's all about you. You want to keep your power for yourself. And also to be able to do your work, which is endeavoring for the welfare of all living entities, including animals. That's how you know whether you are a real divine being or you're basically a backdrop person or someone who has sold their soul, lost their soul. And how they sell their soul is with the promises of what they're going to get if they actually follow the mind and follow the instructions of others as to the way life works and who you are. When you're dissatisfied, you don't feel good. It's hard to sleep at night. The words are tormenting you, and it's a constant. The key is to get control of your mind and take control of you, your life. That takes a lot of work and a lot of endeavor, because you're constantly being bombarded by lies all the time to give your power away, to believe that you're insignificant, you're not special. That's a big lie. Everybody's special. There's nobody like you. And yet we come from the same fabric. We're part of that. That's who we are. And yet that's, you have to own that. So the belief that if I'm satisfied and I'm happy with who I'm with, where I am, then I'm just going to just say all you have right now is a can of beans to eat. Maybe that's it right now. Okay. Enjoy it. Take it in. Let it nourish you. Let yourself be filled with satisfaction and gratitude. And when you do that, you open yourself to prosperity. I was talking with my daughter, Rebecca. I was listening, and she was sharing, Mom, she says, I've been working on my prosperity consciousness, and I realized I'm a wealthy woman. Oh, I know, she is. All that she's accomplished, as she homeschooled my granddaughters, her daughters, up to college. They're magnificent people. She and her husband have worked together in their home and their lives and the community, and always has what she needs in every way. But yet, when you're comparing yourself to everybody else, it's always thinking, well, I haven't made it yet. They're wealthier than I am. They're better than I am. They've made it. I haven't made it. I didn't make the big time. I'm just a small bit player here. This is the mind. It is not you. You've already achieved it. You're already there. You're already whole, complete, and perfect. And you don't have to. You don't have to make yourself better, in a sense, to attain God consciousness. All you have to realize is you already are part of the divine, part and parcel. This is your nature. This is who you are. You already have it all, as much as anyone else has, in potential of what you are. And when you constantly in the mind are talking yourself into believing you're a loser or you're a failure, and that other people are judging you, well, they are, because that's what they do. That's what the mind does all the time. It has to figure out who you are, if you fit, if you're normal, if it's you're in their group, or you're not in their group, or if you're a challenge to them, or all of this. This is the way that the mind is going. And when you take control of the mind and you notice how it's jerking you around, you have to be able to know how to stop the mind. It's meditation, very, very important. So it's important to be satisfied right now where you are. Just to be so grateful. That doesn't mean, oh, I'm so lucky that all I had was a can of beans and that was it and I don't have any more. Wait a minute. You have an abundance. You are a divine being. And when whatever you have, you are satisfied with, that means you're satisfied with yourself. And you're grateful. Your grate is full of appreciation. And the appreciation increases what you have naturally because of the attitude that you have. You know how some people, when you're around them, they're always bummed out, always complaining. It's never good enough. And all they do is they bring themselves down and want to bring you down. And yet, whatever you have, start from there. And I remember when I first started going to my spiritual center, my church, years and years ago, because I was seeking to find out how do I get rid of the misery that I'm experiencing and how do I manifest the life that I want to be living. And that first thing, and I remember like when I would be giving like maybe 50 cents in the collection plate, because that's really all I had. And yet I would give it, but I would affirm it that I'm giving it with love, and as I give it, I'm increasing my prosperity because I'm able to give something. And what happens with people with a poverty consciousness, and they can have extreme wealth of money and resources and all of this, but still always believing or thinking that they don't have enough because the basic program is you're not good enough. And that means that no matter how hard you try or how hard you work on it, you'll still never be good enough because you have the belief that you're not good enough. And they are, and they're better, and then you're competing brothers and sisters, sisters and sisters, brothers and brothers, neighbors, friends, celebrities, this and that, and oh, well, they're better than I am. We're all not equal. I don't like that word. Because 3 equals 3 and they're identical. Or 2 plus 1 equals 3. But it's always saying we're identical. You and I are not identical. And you and I are not equal. We come from the same source. So we're all whole, complete, and perfect with nothing missing. That's who we are. And when you start really recognize and realize who you are, right where you are, you can experience the divine. Right now where you are, you can experience divine pleasure of the soul. And love of God is supreme pleasure for the soul. And I don't mean God out there on a spaceship, up in there, and there, and there, and there, and there, and there. My God's better than your God's. But I'm really meaning by the word, because words limit us. Words generate fear. Okay? Words are what people are giving power to determine who they are and what's possible. When you realize how that's operating, the outer world, then you take that stand right where you are. And instead of living in dissatisfaction because you think if I'm dissatisfied enough I'll do something, you won't. You've got to start acknowledging and recognizing and appreciating and feeling that state of gratitude simply for no reason at all. And when you're there, you don't let your mind jerk you around, make you feel bad, cranky, angry, hostile, poor me, victim, blah, blah, blah. Take your power back. And so giving that 50 cents, what it was, it kept increasing. And then I started noticing how everything in my life started increasing. And if my mind starts to go to try and scare me or make me feel bad or guilty so it can continue to keep control, I know how to stop it. Okay? Because the work that you do, the investment you make in your studies, and having people support and help you to come to the real knowledge and understanding of who you are so that you can bring forth all your powers and all your ability now is the most important work there is. You are the most important work that there is to do. And when you have that, and when you do that, you can help everybody else, because you're not going along with the dissatisfaction that most everybody feels and start to watch it and see what they're doing. You don't need to go there. Right now, be grateful. Be grateful. Be full of enthusiasm. Right now, just be happy and appreciate every little good thing. And I tell you, because then when you start doing that, you have miracles in every moment that before you weren't even recognizing. Breathe into your heart. And right now, right where you are, is the best place for you to be. Right there. And when you acknowledge that and feel that, go forth with enthusiasm. Hugs.